Welcome to another episode of the Myths That Make Us podcast. Today, I want to share with you that I have caught an ultra rare Pokemon. Its name is Dern, and it's been many years that I have tried to capture this elusive animal, but it's always like going to motherfucking Montana every time I have an opportunity to go Pokemon hunting. And finally, I was able to lure him here with the lie that I was going to let him record me rap a song. And we were able to get him here. And so today, exclusively, for the first time, on camera, Graham Dern will be telling stories. To Graham Dern's brother, he admits extreme drug use on this episode. And so if you want to blackmail him at the next family gathering, clip it, share it, maybe even deep fake it and make it worse. For all the women out there who have seen Graham on Instagram who want to know more about his story, this is your exclusive place to figure that out. Clip it, share it, make him feel uncomfortable. To everyone else, I think you'll enjoy his story. It's very good. It's very sweet. He's a good guy. He has a pretty good vibe, if you know what I'm saying. And if you notice that you're maybe a little bit more distracted than normal, or if you're like the average American and you're checking your phone over 200 times a day and you're perpetually distracted and you feel the slow sense of this creeping dread that our culture is being consumed by the machine, and you want to do something about it, check out the Dharma Artist Collective, the eternal sponsor of this podcast. We're basically a group of artists, entrepreneurs, people who are just trying to wake up, and we practice regaining our attention that has been fragmented by a suite of tools made by a cultural elite, most of who seem to be obsessed with trying to replace God with a machine. And yeah, we should just kind of like wake up and we can help each other out. And so this is a cool place to go check it out. So with that said, let's get to Graham Dern's myth. Graham, so I think I should start this podcast with an apology. I thought we had done a podcast years ago, but you know, you've been helping me with the podcast and just being the future best man at my wedding for years. And then you made a joke a couple of weeks ago that like, you can't wait until you get to be on the podcast. And I was like, no way. So we're rectifying that today. Graham Dern, thank you for coming on the Myths That Make Us.
It's so good to finally meet you, man. Yeah, honestly, I think I was kind of okay with not being on the podcast. So I was just like, he thinks I've been on. This is perfect.
No, we're going to fix that. So I have to give you the proper Myths That Make Us treatment. And so the first question is, what do you recall as your first memory?
It's funny because I obviously know all of these questions because I've been editing your podcast for like 2 years. And like when you ask this question to other people, I like think about what mine was. And it's changed, and I really don't feel like I have a specific first memory, but I feel like I have a specific like tone of my childhood. So would you like that, or would you like me to just pick one of the memories that?
Yeah, so for people who are listening, I think that like this is a common reflection that people share.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually go inward and you ask yourself, what's the first memory? Just by the nature of how our minds work, there is something that presents itself first, and then we judge it as like, I don't think that's my earliest memory. And so the invitation for the whole podcast will be just to go with whatever the first thing is that just pops.
Yeah, I think I've just done that so many times that it's like, okay, because I've heard you repeat that. But yeah, so the first memory that comes up is, did you ever have a stomp rocket?
I did, yeah.
Yes. So I remember being at a park with my dad, and we were doing the stomp rocket, and like, you know, I would do it and it would be like, boop, and he would do it and it looked like it was going to space.
Yep.
And I was like, he's the best. And I was eating a frozen Go-Gurt. You remember Go-Gurts?
Yes, I do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw my dad kick a soccer ball, because like that was the sport I played as a kid. It was just like what it feels like now to watch an anime of like a Superman type character, just fucking
totally.
It was like, that's never been done before and that'll never be done again.
Right. Like you are the strongest man alive.
Right. But then and I'm sure people have experienced this, but when I go back to like childhood areas that I was at as a kid, everything is so much smaller.
Yeah.
You know, like the perspective of childhood is just so magnificently large. So the next question is, what was the feeling tone of that memory? Like, what was like, if I had to project, it sounds like safety,
Yeah.
play, awe, respect.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. For that memory, I think it was like safety and like, this guy's awesome. And like, he's my dad.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's cool. Where did you guys live? Like, where was the context of this memory?
So that was in Seattle. I lived there until I was 7. So I imagine that was probably when I was like 3 or 4.
How do you cope with the shade of green here in Texas? Because I've spent some years in Seattle or in that area, and it looks like the pigment of Texas is broken compared to the greenery.
Except for Austin. Austin's, especially right now, is like pretty lush. Like, but the rest of Texas, dude, yeah. But yeah, the green of Washington and Pacific Northwest is my favorite.
So what was childhood like? You're 3 or 4. What year is it? Do you have brothers and sisters? What are their ages? Kind of like bring us into childhood world. So yeah,
Seattle. I was born in 1994. I was born on the day that O.J. Simpson got arrested. So the day that the white Bronco was, that's like, I can like tell that to people who are older and they're like, I know exactly where I was the moment you were born.
Do you know what time? So the girls watching this who want to get your astrology right.
Oh yeah. Shit, dude. I probably shouldn't say it, right? No, I think it's like 12:35 p.m. It's like just afternoon.
Wow.
Something like that.
So it is like right around the time.
Yeah.
OJ did. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, in Seattle, Washington, right outside of Queen Anne, for those familiar, Queen Anne Avenue.
Not familiar.
Yeah, older brother, 2 years older. And then, yeah, my younger sister was born in 98, so she's 4 years younger. So definitely have some memories from, I do remember actually another memory was my dad like huddling my brother and I up and being like, Mom's, you're going to have a little sister and we need you to be like really helpful. We need you to be like helpers. I was like, all right, I got this.
Interesting. So there wasn't any like, this new child is going to take away my parents' love for me or anything. It was like, ooh, I get to be a helper.
I think it was, I mean, when she was born, I'm sure there was probably a little bit of that. Like my sister and I definitely fought a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that moment being like, oh, cool. Another one. Another one.
Yeah. All right. So what was the first story that really captured your attention? And what age were you?
Yeah, this one's pretty clear. I grew up going to church and going to Sunday school. And so the story of David and Goliath was
interesting.
Like,
wow.
Loved it. I loved Samson too, the story of Samson, but David and Goliath was like, my mom would tell me, and I do remember like I would have like a sword and like armor and I would like do this song where I would walk around and be like, Goliath, thump, thump.
You got to sing more of the song.
That was it. It was Goliath, thump, thump.
So did you, like when you play acted the story, were you Goliath?
No, I was David.
And is the song like David calling out Goliath?
I don't really know.
The idea?
I think that there was like a little like movie or something that I watched and that was like a song from the movie. And I was just like, but yeah, that story like captivated me.
This is fascinating. I think you might be the first person in like 150 episodes or something whose like original story was a biblical story. That's cool.
Really?
So can you tell the audience, like, will you talk to us like we're like either a niece or a nephew who's like 8 years old and it's bedtime and we're like, Uncle Graham, tell us a story. And for whatever reason you choose to tell the David and Goliath story. Can you talk to us like we're the kid and it's bedtime and tell us that story?
All right, little Eric. Let me do my best. So once upon a time, there was a young shepherd named David. He was very small. There wasn't anything spectacular about him to the outside, but he had like a fascinating inner world and connection with God. And there was a war going on between tribes, between his tribe and the neighboring tribe, and his brothers were soldiers. And one day, his father asked him to go bring food to his brothers at the front line of battle. And this battle had been going on for months, and the warring neighboring tribe had a giant named Goliath who was 10 feet tall, and every day he would come out and he would challenge a one-on-one battle with a soldier from David's tribe. And every time he would win because he was just stronger and bigger and faster. He was a beast. He was a fucking beast. He wasn't like a slow giant.
Right.
He was like
a Shaq.
He was like a linebacker, you know, and he just happened to be 10
He was
feet
like
tall.
an Orlando Shaq.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
There you go. I'm going to go back to you being 10 because I feel like I'm telling it to you.
No, this is fantastic.
Okay, cool.
Murder!
It was getting to a point where no one would face him. And when David approached and was giving food to his brothers, he heard Goliath taunting all the soldiers of his tribe, and he just got pissed. He was like, fuck this guy. Like, he's big and strong, but like, I've always thought my brothers are the big strong ones. Like, they can beat him. And he realized that no one was going to do anything. So he had been practicing a skill in solitude for many years, which was slingshot. He was just practicing in the field with his sheep all the time. He was like fending off the predators for his sheep with a slingshot. So he went down to the river and he found 5 smooth stones, and he walked back, and to everyone's surprise, he said, I will fight you. And obviously everyone gasped, and then everyone started laughing because he was just a boy. A bunch of soldiers weren't going to fight him. Goliath was laughing. And then finally, when the king realized that he was serious, he respected him and said, okay, here's our finest armor and our finest sword for you to go fight Goliath. And David was like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to just go out there with my sandals and my slingshot. And so they're on the battlefield. It's David and Goliath. And Goliath walks out, armored up, sword, laughing at David because obviously he's just a fly. He's going to like swat him away. And David takes a single stone, puts it in his slingshot, winds it up, three swirls above his head, and fires and hits Goliath directly in the forehead. And it knocks him out. And David slowly walks over and picks up Goliath's sword and cuts his head off. So I hope that's not too graphic.
No, you already said fuck.
Yeah.
So.
True. And that's the end of the big story. But what's actually really cool and what means a lot to me, which I've more recently discovered, which has been another synchronicity, but David then, you know, he's a hero. And the king, who I think is King Saul, realizes that David is also an incredible musician. He's a harpist. And he hires David to come and play him the harp to calm him down, to like regulate him. And David then marries Saul's daughter. He becomes like the coolest guy in town.
Wow.
And eventually Saul gets really jealous of him because he's no longer like the cool king. So he conspires to kill David. And David has to retreat and live in the forest and the woods for many, many years. I don't really know the rest of the story, but we'll make something up to tie it together. I know that David eventually comes back and there's a battle and he wins and he becomes king. And he's known as one of the best kings of all time as he continues to play his harp.
Wow.
And we'll end it there.
That was awesome. You definitely know how I tie this back at the end of the podcast episodes, and so I won't get too much into it. But how interesting that you're on a podcast called The Myths That Make Us, and that was your favorite myth. And then, you know, we'll see how your life unfolds on the story here, but very well told. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome. So was there any cultural story, like a movie that like really captured you that you watched a couple of times, or
yeah,
you know?
There were a few. Like I loved Tarzan, but I hated the beginning when his mom died. I would like skip that part.
Bro, how many Disney movies came out in our childhood where a parent was murdered on
I
screen?
know.
Like at least 4 or 5.
I know. It's just
Weird.
preparing us, I guess. I don't know.
Weird. Okay, so what was the first thing that you remember having gotten good at as a kid? Because I find that like one of the important developmental moments in our childhood is like when we start to feel competence at something.
Yeah. I always felt like really coordinated, like as young, like as an athlete. Like I felt like I could just do things quickly. And then also I started playing piano super young. And I remember adults being like, whoa,
What was that first experience like where you felt the reflection from an adult and it was surprising?
My mom's friend in Seattle like started teaching me piano. And I just remember like her being impressed.
How old?
I mean, from the moment I could sit at the piano, I mean, probably like 2 or 3 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I was probably not taking lessons maybe till like 4 or 5, but we had a piano in my house and I remember playing that piano. My parents still have that piano. I'll have that piano someday.
So what was your first friend group like? Like what was your identity outside of the house?
I had one really good friend. Shout out Tyler.
Hell yeah. I hope he knows who he is without saying his last name.
Yeah, he knows who he is. And then I remember just like always trying to impress my brother's friends and like wanting to hang out with them. And yeah, like playing basketball with them and just like always feeling cool when they thought that I was cool and like trying to impress them, you know? Like whether it was like video games or...
What were your video games?
It was all like Nintendo 64. So it was like Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Bro, remember GoldenEye?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that game was fucking sick. But yeah, I feel like Mario Kart was the one that I remember like playing the most.
Was it GoldenEye where there was a special sniper rifle that could see through walls, or am I thinking of something else?
That sounds familiar. I also just remember the theme song went like way too hard. It was so good.
For sure. Okay, so like when puberty started, what was your life like? Where did you live? You know, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit the major developmental beats like in our childhood. And things definitely start to get weird once puberty starts to happen. So like,
yeah.
What grade were you in when you started to feel that like transformation, and like what were you doing with your life, and like what was the identity that you were cultivating at school? You know, like, because for me, where like the first like group I felt like I was trying to fit into, I was on like my childhood was almost defined by having a skill that got me into a group, but then my identity was to not be absorbed by the group, which you can for sure psychoanalyze that and see patterns in my life. But so I was always like a part of some like sports group, you know?
Yeah.
But then my identity was constantly trying to like not be a part of it, which was weird. And so what was yours like?
Yeah, so I lived in Seattle till I was 7, and then I moved outside of Chicago, suburbs, Naperville.
Naperville,
dude.
That is
the
that's
Ville.
like town city.
People know Naperville.
Heard.
It's like it's like the 3rd biggest city in Illinois. But yeah, I moved there when I was 7, and yeah, the move was definitely hard. Like I remember just like I also remember I was really like attached to my mom at that age, and I remember like just like going to a new school was like really hard for me, especially like I think I was in 1st grade when I moved. But yeah, I felt like I always was able to fit in pretty easily. Like I made friends pretty easily. I made friends in my neighborhood. It was really nice to have an older brother, like 2 years older, like older but still close. And like he was really good at making friends, so it just kind of like worked naturally. And we had a lot of like kids in the neighborhood where we would just like fuck around, you know? But yeah, I felt like I was good at making friends, and also like school was just, it was really easy. Like the academics of school was really easy. But I do remember like, yeah, really attached to my mom, and like really almost like overcoming a lot of shame, which I don't know if it was from going to church or like where it came from, but But especially in Seattle, and then the first couple of years in Naperville, I remember like I felt like I always had to like confess things to my mom. It was this really interesting thing. Yeah. Like I felt like if I did something that I felt like was wrong, or even I had like a thought that I thought was wrong, I had to like confess. Like I remember in Seattle one time, I was, probably like 4 or 5, and I like had to go confess to my mom that I thought that her friend was beautiful because I wasn't allowed to like feel that emotion or something. And like looking back now, it's like so. Oh, man. Yeah, it's so interesting. And it wasn't like, I think it was from church, because like she was always like, it's so okay.
For sure. Like, I think one of the really tough things about the way Christianity has been, one of the unfortunate things about how Christianity was taught to most people in the U.S. who were born in like the late 80s or the early 90s. It just seems like there was just like, I'd say like 99% of the people who I meet, who I know, who had some type of contact with Christianity as children, the people teaching it weren't exemplars of being Christ-like.
Right. Definitely not.
And children will just pick up like one sentence that just fucking devastates them for like 10 plus years. And it's not even so much the fault of the, not super integrated emanation of the energy of Yeshua. But I remember like the thing that really just attached itself to my mind was hearing, and this was like the first time I'd ever gone to church, or I guess, what did you call it? Bible school or?
Sunday school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where whoever was at the front of the room talking said something like, yes, the Bible was written by man, but man was moved by God. And when you die, you get to go to heaven forever.
Yeah.
And like for me as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, all I heard was, wait, God didn't write the Bible,
Yeah.
It just introduced into my mind, like, wait, people wrote this, but then the thing that really fucked me up was like, wait, the like best possible outcome is that I have to live forever. And the subtext as a child was, with the attachment opportunities I have in my current family dynamic, and that, I'm going to be a kid forever, and I'm going to have these parents forever, and I'm going to have to be in this position forever. And it absolutely, like, that was my biggest trauma as a child, because for some reason, it's like, you've heard me tell the story, but, it's coming up, but that I went home that night and I was falling asleep, and I was trying to like cognitively comprehend what forever meant.
Yeah.
And, as I was probably like 6, it brought me into an emotion that I had no context for, I had no language for. And, 30 years later, in hindsight, the way I would describe it was like existential dread, but something worse than dread, because dread is still anticipating a thing coming and that maybe it won't be. But it was like the thing I was existentially dreading had not only arrived, but had always been behind me. And that even the idea of somehow escaping the dreadful thing was always an illusion, and that illusion had been dissolved. And I'm 6 and I'm just crying in my room. Like,
it is inevitable.
Right. And I remember I wasn't in control of my mind. And so every night for the next, I think it was like a week, I would not be able to stop my mind from falling into the whirlpool of trying to comprehend, and again, I didn't have this language then, but the way I would articulate it now was I never gave permission to be incarnated into this thing, which we call life, where I can never leave. I can never unincarnate my conscious awareness. And it was just devastating. And so eventually I started praying to the God that I felt had like violated my consciousness by incarnating me with against my will. And again, I didn't have this language back then, but this is how it felt, you know, in hindsight. But I would pray to that God, begging to forget that I had ever even tried to look at this question. And then eventually, after like what I think was like a week or so, it just kind of like receded. And then for the next 15 years, I was a hardcore atheist, and we can get to that. But so with that premise, does that elicit anything for you for like a pinpoint of like maybe what you heard and how your child mind interpreted it to bring you into this game you were playing where your mom wasn't even expecting it, but you were just like, I have to, you know?
Yeah, nothing like, no moment comes up, but like I definitely had a lot of questions when I was learning this stuff. And like, it was tough because it's like, this is what we're basing our whole lives off of. And like, this is like what my grandma tells me is like the way. And like, it just, from an early age, like there were things that didn't make sense to me. It's like, okay, so you can kill people and be like a piece of shit your whole life, but then at the end of your life, you can repent to God and then you go to heaven. Like what's the point of like being a good person? Because just the way it's taught is like, I mean, first of all, it's not even the true message of Jesus.
For sure.
And I just had a lot of questions. It didn't make sense.
Was your upbringing Catholic or Protestant?
It's Protestant. Yeah, like more like non-denominational, but like just going to church.
Yep.
Yeah, but not Catholic and not Orthodox. So.
Yeah, the thing that's been super interesting for me lately is starting to expose myself to Orthodox Christianity and just like how their basic premise is like what sets it apart from Catholicism and from Protestantism. I probably didn't say that right, but one of the things I actually just read today is like one of the key differences is that for Orthodox Christianity, the state of salvation is not something that's permanent. It is something that is like, it's almost like trying to find the dharmic tune each day.
Yeah.
And that you have to like, what is eternal is the opportunity to attune to the salvation frequency, if you will. And that's basically where you're like in right alignment with the God force, and there's the kingdom of heaven is emanating through you. But that it's not permanent and you can slip every day.
And that feels so much more resonant.
Yeah, that definitely feels like that probably, you know, it's like if we use the metaphor of to be in salvation is you have caught the wave and you're on the board.
Yeah.
Like the way that it was presented to me that was always weird is like a dude in the past died so that we are always forever on the board as long as we say his name.
Yeah.
You're just automatically on the board, and anyone who doesn't say his name can't ever be on the board. And I say, like,
that's bringing something up too. Like one thing that was really confusing to me is I was taught that like you have to give your life to Jesus if you want to go to heaven. And I was like, what about all the people that have never heard of Jesus? Like, what about in my brain? I was like, oh, people in, you know, Africa, or there's some people that don't have access to these teachings. If they don't give their life to Jesus, do they just go to hell, even though they're good people? I was like, that doesn't make sense to me, you know?
Do you remember if you ever got the chance to ask these questions to an adult and what the responses were like?
I don't really. I feel like I kind of just like internally asked them and just kind of like smiled and nodded when it was taught to me. Because it was like explicitly like you have to give your life to Jesus. Like I was baptized, so I was saved. But what about everybody else? You know?
What age?
I think I was baptized like as a baby.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like a tiny little baby.
Yeah. The memories that I have, you know, because I definitely was asking adults, and I don't have a single memory of an adult who met my questions with like compassionate good humor. it was almost universally either, no, you misunderstand. Let me correct you. And it could be earnest or straight up motherfucking hostile. Like, as I got older and I got more asshole-ish with how I was asking my questions, I definitely...
Damn, I wish I could have seen you in high school, dude.
Yeah, it's like, in hindsight, the thing that's so interesting is, like, I was definitely always looking for God, you know, even as an atheist. Like, I was spending more time than almost any religious person I had ever known learning about Christianity, but through the lens of an atheist that's trying to have every possible shiv that you can just dish out. In hindsight, though, I was clearly looking for someone to communicate it to me in a way that would land for me. You know, because, like, where I'm at now is like the Carl Jung quote, "Do you believe in God?" And it's just like a smirk, and it's like, I don't believe I know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that the God that's in my, like, this other thing that Carl Jung talks about is that everyone has what's called an imago Dei, which is your subjective, only felt by you face that you give to God. And it doesn't have to be literal, but each of us have our own internal representation of the Most High, of the divine, of whatever you want to call it. And I just know that mine is not congruent with almost anyone I know who, you know, proclaims a monotheistic title as what they believe. I definitely don't see a white dude, you know?
What do you see?
If I were to give, like, if I were to track what just popped up into my mind, it's like the first thing I see is almost like a imperceptibly or just perceptible, like limerence, like golden thread in black void.
Whoa.
Is just,
that's beautiful.
It's like there is a continuity of the good and the true and the beautiful that has existed in every moment that is the precursor for the next moment being comprehensible. And like, that's undeniably true in this moment right now. Like, there's the C.S. Lewis quote that I really enjoy, and he says, I forget exactly how it goes, but it's something like, I don't believe in the sun because I can see it. God is the thing that allows me to perceive the sun. Like, God is the prerequisite for all of the comprehending. And so that's the first thing that comes to mind, is that, like, really subtle, like, pulsing thread of, like, gold light in the void. And then the next thing that comes to mind is a dream I had of this, like, ecstatically, almost like 5-MeO style, beautiful, singular piece of golden wheat. Like, it was like a singular golden wheat thing, again, with the backdrop of the void, and like, just like exploding with aliveness. So those are the first things that come to mind when I think of God. And so when I connect to that, like, one of my personal triggers that I'm still working on, and because I've been reading some books on Christianity recently, it's been coming up in conversations, and like, it's what I thought about on the way here in the car. But it's like, this is one of the things that was one of my major points of contention, was, God is not a he or a him if you're unable to also call her a she. Like, and then the next thought is like, how many millions of people had to be murdered to gaslight civilization to the point where we can have all of came from a woman, and then to think that the ultimate God thing is he.
Yeah.
And he in such a way where you can't say she. Like
Yeah.
where you can't bring yourself to say she because your imago Dei is so attuned to being a man. It's like,
Yeah.
how many millions of people who were connected to the land and connected to the mother had to be murdered in the name of monotheism for like, you know, hundreds of women throughout my life to look at me and tell me that God's a dude.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I totally grant using he as like a shortcut.
Right.
But
yeah.
if you can't also say she and connect to the same thing, we aren't connecting to the same God, you know?
For sure.
And so like one of the things that I am definitely finding curious is I have all of this architecture in my memory of just the reams of evidence that I have accumulated for when I identified as an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last like 10 years, I haven't accessed any of that stuff because I've been in a very like open and like loving, like, yo, believe what you want to believe. I know that there's a here, and like I pray every day. I have my rituals. I fucking do the thing. But then in the last year, there has definitely been a cultural breeze that I have felt where there's a lot of people who used to be able to say he or she, for example, that are like,
they're back to he,
proud Christian and only say he. And like, there's a part of me that's constantly like, is this the hill I want to go on?
Yeah.
And
you versus Jesus.
Right. Well, the thing also, I think one of my other like things I'm working through, I appreciate you basically being my therapist today on this call.
Hell yeah.
But that in the same way, there's something in me that like constricts when I feel like I sense in the person across from me when they say God that they think it's somehow man or dude as opposed to a thing behind either gender. There's also a part of me that, you know, I would say the majority of the people in my life who have said something along the lines of you have to let Jesus into your heart to be saved. If I could pluck their imago Dei of Jesus, it's a motherfucking white European dude. And it's like, how much of what he actually said have you read? How much have you, like, do your roots actually connect to that lineage? Or does the tree that is coming out of it, is it using the name of Christ for you to actually be judgmental?
Yeah.
Because again, just from, you know, we all have our own points of view, but I grew up in Wisconsin and then I spent some time in Texas. Almost exclusively, I'd say like 97% of the people who were outspokenly Christian were either, if you ask them enough questions, which especially in high school, I was asking them enough questions, you would find some sexism. That was like the easiest thing to find is, you know, like you just got to know a couple of lines of fucking Genesis and then ask people some questions and it gets real clear super quick. Racism.
Yep.
I have people close to me in my family who are gay and they're like almost everyone that was talking about God.
Yeah, that was a sin.
Right. It was a sin of such a caliber that the God of the Old Testament that we are taught to like, you know, like is the Most High, murdered an entire city because there were gay acts happening in the city. That is just like, again, I'm really trying not to go too deep into my atheist like network of stories and examples, but for anyone listening who might be confused, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and how that played out is just one example of a lot of examples. But thank you for listening to me. Let's get back to the myths that made Graham. So, the core question I want to get to, but if there's any pre-stories that feel worth connecting to, I'd love to hear them. But What do you remember being the like dream for your life in high school? Like what you wanted to become, you know, because in our culture, we're expected to know what we want to be with enough clarity that we're willing to bet $100,000 to $200,000 of debt to then go pursue. Like I wanted to be a basketball player because I was an idiot, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
What was your dream of being after high school? And were there any significant events in high school that are like worth sharing on the podcast that give us an insight into just the stories that made you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely changed. Like when I was a little kid, I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to, you know, like, I wanted to be Allen Iverson when I grew up.
Hell yeah.
But quicker than for you, I realized that wasn't going to happen. But I think I wanted to be a musician. I had family that were like in the movie business, so I thought that was like a cool path. I think
Oh,
that
wow,
was just
that's
like
cool.
I didn't want to have like a normal job. I think I kind of knew that. But yeah, I was just super into sports and super into music. But I really was like, I don't know if I had like a core like dream. I think it was like fluctuating a lot as long as it was like something cool that I loved. You
It's
know?
like you knew what you didn't want to do.
Yeah, I knew what I didn't want to do, and I knew I just wanted to like have fun and get paid to do something that I loved.
Could you, can you identify like the time or the event where it became like, what was the incident that made it clear for you that your goal was to not be a certain thing? You know, like, was there something you saw in like a movie or that you saw in your family?
I mean, my dad worked in like corporate America, and he like provided for us and it was awesome, but I didn't think he loved his job. And I was like, I don't want to have a job that I don't love.
For sure.
I also was very like, now that I'm thinking about it more too, like I was like very like entrepreneurial as a kid. Like I was always trying to like start businesses. I remember even I had this like little cash register, like a plastic cash register.
Wow.
And I was always like scheming up like businesses.
Do you remember any?
I mean, really little was like lemonade stand vibe. But
Like-
like, I'm going to make this the best fucking lemonade stand. And I'm like charge a little bit more because I know these people
Premium.
will pay. Yeah. And then like, you know, middle school, high school, did like lawn mowing businesses where I would just go like door to door and like be like, I'll mow your lawn for whatever it was,
That's
probably
cool.
like $15 or something. And then it worked. Like I would get, you know, neighborhood dads to let me mow their lawn, and I would do it and make money. And I thought that I just felt good to like provide for myself, even though I wasn't really providing for myself, to feel like I had some like sovereignty, you know?
The thing that's wild, and you and I have talked about this, but I don't know where I got this idea from, but I didn't realize until after I graduated college, and I think I was 23, after having read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, I realized, because I had to read that book 2 or 3 times in order to understand, like I knew there was something important in this book because there were all these chapters about like how to renegotiate your job in such a way where you can work more like deep work hours and you don't have to be on meetings. And I thought that was all super cool. But then he started talking about like creating your own business. And this was before YouTube, and this was before like the internet was really like up and running, or at least I wasn't using it that much. And I realized that I didn't know what an entrepreneur was.
Yeah.
And that I thought that you had to like go to school and get a degree before you could accept money from strangers. And I remember just like being both shocked at what was now available to me as being possible, but also being like so flabbergasted that I like blew by shame and was just almost in awe of the fact that I was able to get to being 23 and recognize like my dumbass thought that you had to have a degree to be an entrepreneur. So can you identify like where you even got the gall to think that you could just ask people for money?
Yeah, I think
Was
I
it
had the
something
opposite experience as a kid. I felt like I thought like anything was possible, and I think I did have a lot of examples from like distant family
I see. So
because
there was
like
some entrepreneur
yeah, there was
somewhere?
entrepreneurs, there was people that were doing things that I didn't really just even understand, and then there was my dad working in like corporate America. My
That's
mom's
cool.
sister started like a fitness, like a bar method. Daily shout out Daily Method, sick. Shout out Aunt Jill. So like she was an entrepreneur. So I feel like I had an examples of like
Yeah,
you can
cool.
really, and like my parents were like, they were very much like, yo, you can do anything, and you're like a smart kid. So like whatever you want to do, you're gonna be able to do it.
Yeah, I was definitely told I could do anything, but I thought anything was go get a degree.
I feel like there was like two levels of like you can do anything as a kid, and then more like, you know, junior high school, it was still like, yo, you could actually do anything, you know.
Wow.
Which I feel like most kids probably start to lose that around that age, where it's like I can't actually do anything, you know. I mean, like I'm not going to be in the NBA, but I can like anything that's attainable in the world, you know.
For sure. Yeah, and the truth is you could be in the NBA, but you would probably be like one of those mop dudes that just like really like sprints in there and slides in and gets the thing real quick. All right. So, were you doing any extracurricular chemicals in high school, or was it pretty straight laced until college?
It was. I started drinking when I was 16, I think. Yeah, I remember my first beer. I remember my first 4 beers, and I was like, "Oh, this is fucking awesome." And so I think it was like my junior year, like sophomore or junior year, I started like drinking a lot and hanging out with like, I mean, my friends were already the same friends that I had, but we all were just like, oh, drinking is fucking fun. This is how we like hang out with girls. We just party on the weekends. So that, and I did smoke like a little bit in high school, but not really. Like it was mostly just drinking. I don't think I did any other, you know, real drugs.
And how did you prepare for college? Did you go to college? What was that?
Yeah, I went to college. I went to the University of Denver. I really did not know what the fuck I wanted to do. It was still like, it was almost like there's so many possibilities and I just can't make a choice. And so I went to Denver because my brother went there. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and my mom's from Denver. My grandma
I thought he was
there.
only 2 years older than you. Did he skip a grade?
No, I was held back.
What happened?
I went to pre-kindergarten. So I went to preschool and then I went to pre-kindergarten. I think my mom was like, this guy is not socially prepared for kindergarten, which is hilarious. Which is hilarious. So thanks, Mom. Shit. So I was always like a little bit old for my grade. And my brother is actually like a little bit young for his. So yeah, he's a little more than 2 years older, but he was 3 grades above me.
I see.
So he was always like, when he was a senior in high school, I was a freshman. And then when he was a senior in college, I was a freshman.
That's such a cool setup.
Yeah. I mean, cool. I remember the first day of freshman year, like the seniors like run around the school and like cause mayhem, and they're like allowed to. I don't think they're allowed to anymore because I think that one year went a little bit too hard. But I just remember like first day of school, one of my brother's friends, like big like linebacker dude, just came up and like picked me up, carried me across the cafeteria, and just set me in a trash can.
Whoa!
But it was like, this is cool. And
That's
then,
so interesting.
And then yeah, in college, like I just like knew a bunch of people right when I got there because I had visited my brother. And
what's the population for that, or what's the size of that school?
Sam, I should know this. I think it's like 7,000 undergrad.
Yeah.
So it's like decent sized. But yeah, I think that choice was just something that was a little bit familiar because my brother went there and I had family there. I was like, this feels comfortable, you know?
Do you know you obviously do. What did you major and minor?
Yeah, I actually don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I did communications because I didn't know, and I did psychology minor. Dude, this is funny. I remember I went in to see my counselor because I had to pick a major. It was getting to the point, I think it's your sophomore year, where they're like, yo, what are you going to do? And I had to pay to take this like career test. And I like sat down and did this whole test and like submitted it. And then I like went and met with her a few days later to get my results back. And she was like, okay, so the results came back and based on your tests, it says that you should be a bartender. And I was like, great. I'm so glad that I'm here in school.
Holy
So then
shit.
like
That is fucking
all the
hilarious.
girls that I had a crush on were in the communications classes. And I was just like, at that point I was there and I was like partying and I was like, fuck it. I'll just do this major. Like that's really like where my orientation was at the time.
How much did you have to pay to take that test? Do you remember?
I think it was like a couple $100 or something. I just remember that it was like there was a fee, and then to get that back, I was like, "This is my last counselor meeting."
Wow.
Thank you. You know.
So, did you do psychedelics for the first time in college?
Started smoking weed a lot, and
What
then
grade or what?
Freshman, yeah, like freshman year. I met this girl, and we would just go smoke in my car and listen to music. And then,
what was your first time being high like?
I had been high at least once in high school, but it was so different then, dude, like than it is now. Because I think it was because I hadn't done psychedelics yet. So then it was just like fun. Music sounded good. I was like, everything was funny. Go eat good food, like more social. Where now it's like a microdose or a macrodose of psychedelics when I smoke.
Yeah, and I think like a thing that is easy to not appreciate is like the horizon of our worldview when we're in college. For most of us, like we're already at a level of privilege if we're able to even be in college,
right?
Like for whatever reason,
100%, yeah.
But we also like aren't aware of like, you know, how the U.S. uses the World Bank to then bankrupt companies in South America to co-opt their politicians to have them as like little pawns for wars with China. And like, we're not aware of the housing bubble or how, you know, like most of the people in the country would be homeless if they lost their job in like a month. And we're not aware of like psychosis and Alzheimer. And then now, you know, at the age that we're at, with the interconnectedness of all these phones and all this news, it's like our appreciation for the fragility of everything.
Yeah.
It's just so much more that like, if I get high and I'm not in the right space and I just kind of like teeter into like, oh yeah, there is definitely a part of me that is in an existential scream that I have to kind of like put in the back of my head and be like, okay, I'm going to pray and I'm going to work out today. It'll be really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, then I did start experimenting with like psychedelics in college.
What age?
This would have been, you know, like 19 or 20.
Do you want to share any of those first stories?
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah. I mean, I think 20. I think after my sophomore year, I had my little like first time doing like a music festival like tour, you know? I think that summer I went to they were all in Chicago, and I went to God, what was that one? It was at Soldier Field, Spring Awakening. It was like electronic music, which I didn't love, but on drugs, it's good. And then I went to Lollapalooza, and I went to North Coast Music Festival. And, you know, the next year we were going to like Red Rocks all the time, which is still like my favorite venue in the world. But I do remember like the first time taking any of those substances, like immediately feeling like super connected to like, I mean, obviously just like blissed out, but feeling like I almost wanted to like go be alone for a little bit and just like experience this like connection that I was having with like source that I didn't really understand. And it didn't feel like the people I was with were having the same experience. They felt more like they just wanted to like keep drinking, and which I was like down to do because everything felt amazing. But I do remember it just being like, this. I feel like this is different for me than it is for them for some reason.
Interesting.
And so like that summer, yeah, I was really experimenting. Sorry, Mom.
Did you have any moment between those three where you where you double clicked on that intuition of I should try this and like be alone? Like, did you give yourself some type of container, even if it could be at one of those festivals you like went away on your own?
Yeah, I think I had moments alone. Now that I'm thinking about this, I also like I had started to get into like I had found Sam Harris at this time, and I had found Eckhart Tolle, and this like really hot girl from college sent me the power of, or she was like, she had a what was it, Snapchat?
It all makes sense. That's why
Power
you
of
love
Now.
this
Dude,
book so much.
100%. Like she did a Snapchat of the Power of Now. I was like, I'll like read this so that like she thinks I'm cool. And then I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Like, whoa, this like completely changed my life.
God bless those hot girls in college who Snapchatted the spiritual books
you.
they were
I don't
reading.
even remember her name, but thank you so much.
Savage.
It changed my life.
So then were you meditating around this time?
Yeah. What an interesting combo too, like Sam Harris and Eckhart Tolle. But yeah, meditating, starting to like explore the inner world for sure.
Can you share any stories from that time of like either like an experiment you did or like what one of those moments looked like of intentionally creating a space to go inward? Because that might seem normal to us, but most people in college are not like, let me step away from the alcohol and the party and go inside of this closet and listen to a dude talk to me about how to watch my breath.
Yeah. I remember being like my sophomore year, the dorm that I was in, I had my own room. So there was a lot of just like moments of reflection. And like, I just remember laying on my bed, kind of like meditating. And I do remember one moment, which was at one of the music festivals. Like, I think I had just kind of like broken off from the crowd and just taking a moment to be like, this is how you're supposed to. It felt like I was like remembering how I was supposed to feel, or how like it's possible to feel. And of course I was like, this is forever now. And then the next day I was like, oh no, I'm back.
So did you then your junior year spend a year abroad?
Yeah. So that summer was the music festival summer. And then like, God, I'm trying to remember the timeline, but yeah, then I went to New Zealand, and that was incredible. And because that was the first time where I felt like I was doing the psychedelics, but I was pairing it with like nature. And so that was like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be done. And I had like backpacking experiences. I remember I had this one day where I just took a tab of LSD and went to the botanical gardens, which I could just walk to.
Wow.
And I just listened to Lonerism by Tame Impala. And for some reason, Nora Jones, like journaling and like staring at a flower and just recognizing the beauty all around me. And like, I want to go back and read that journal entry, but
you still have it?
I still have it. Yeah. I still have all my journals. And it was like, this shit I was writing was like so funny. It was like just like a little kid waking up, you know?
So this is really interesting. There's a couple of questions here. Was the trip to New Zealand the beginning of you starting to like spend extended time in nature? Because that's a big part of who you are now.
I mean, living in Denver, like that's there too, of course. And I even liked to like camp as a little kid, and we would go out to Colorado and ski and stuff. But yeah, I think that was like the next level of like, okay, now I'm like doing backpacking trips, and I'm like really finding like how good this is for me, and like how nourishing this is for me, and how I like need this as to be part of my life, you know?
I do think a cool thing to have as like a paired thing with the remembering or the fundamental frequency thing that you're working on is to like, take a group of people out into nature 100%. And just let that be the thing. Because I would do that. But anyways, to get back, when did you start a journaling practice? Because one of the things, again, people really have no fucking idea how unconscious I was. Like in my younger life, you know, it's really almost incomprehensible. But I didn't start journaling until I was like 23.
Yeah.
I don't think I had ever written a reflective thought until my life blew up at like 23. And so when did you start journaling? And I would just love to hear about that practice that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think I started like a journaling practice or what I would consider a journaling practice until I took your course. But I had journals, and I would write like reflections of like feelings of like revelation that I was having. I was like, I can't not write this down, you know? But it wasn't like stream of consciousness really. It was more like reflections, and it was like super sporadic.
Interesting.
It wasn't, but yeah, I still have everything that I think I have every journal that I've ever had still.
That's so cool.
But yeah, that probably started like, yeah, like same time.
So is this around your junior year of college?
Yeah,
When
New
this is
Zealand
happening?
would have been my junior year.
So were there any insights or like new myths that kind of like came into you as to like what you wanted to do with your life? Was there any new clarity for, well, I suppose a question worth asking is, as a junior in college, now that you've had a couple of these transcendent experiences, what was the myth you were in? Like, what did you believe?
Yeah.
Who were you? Where were you going? Can you like reconnect to that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I feel like the myth that I was in, or the way that I was feeling, was not in harmony with the life that I was living at all. Like, I was in a fraternity.
Interesting. Yeah.
I was partying all the time. You know, then just waking up like feeling like shit. But I was like, at the same time, I was kind of like refinding God after kind of like rejecting that for a little while. So yeah, can you repeat what the question was?
Yeah. So I was curious, like what your, like what myth were you inside of? Like, for example, when I was a junior in college, the myth I was in was something like, our culture is fucked. I'm upset, but there seems to be a real project that I can undertake, which is to explore my own inner world using the tools of psychedelics. There was this vague notion of like something Buddhism is cool, but I don't know shit.
Yeah.
It is fucking laughable.
Yeah.
I knew nothing other than there was a dude a long time ago who was capable of just being content under a tree for multiple days at a time. And I was like, at least people aren't murdering people in his name. And so that was something that felt like interesting. I definitely didn't know what I wanted to be, but that's not true. I think it was subconscious, but I knew I wanted to be interesting enough to be on a podcast, because like that's
Good
just
job,
when podcasts started to like arise. Yeah, fucking nailed it. So those are some examples of like what was yours like?
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, I feel like I was in a similar place where I don't really think I had the world is fucked orientation really, even though it was, but like definitely was in the same way like interested in like Buddhism, but just as like, this is a cool thing.
I don't know shit, but it's...
And also I think I was like, I was really content with like solitude. Like I was like happiest. I was finding that the happiest moments were like when I was alone, and I was like, oh, I can just like recluse into the mountains. Like that's an option. And like, how can I figure out how to do that? And at the time it was like, maybe I can find a way to just make music and live in the mountains alone.
So this is what I was just about to ask. What was your relationship to music at this time?
Yeah, this was when I was like really like starting to like create music and like write I was like writing songs as a little kid, but now I had like Logic and I was like starting to fuck around.
When did that start?
I guess that did start in like high school, like senior year, but I wasn't really devoted to that practice at all until probably my junior year of college. Like that's when I was like, since sophomore year dorm, like every room that I've been in turned into like a little recording studio. Now I get to have my living room as my recording studio. But before that, it was like every bedroom, there was a bed, and then the rest was a recording studio.
Would you say that like a major part of what you're trying to do consciously or unconsciously as a musician is to give a audio experience of the things you feel when you're in nature or when you're on psychedelics?
100%. And that's actually really well said. Like, I don't even know if I put words to it like that, but yeah.
Because that's the vibe I get from your music. It's just like, this is the best part of psychedelics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
or it's not, it doesn't even have to be psychedelics, but there also is something unique about like nature produced mushrooms for you to look at the river and the mountains with it.
Or just the feeling you have sitting by a river is like, for sure, that's what I'm trying, or I'm just trying to make you cry. That's really what I'm trying to do.
Me too. That's basically everything I do. Yeah. Cool. So would you say it's fair that when you were a junior in college, that's when you began to commit to the devotion of being a musician?
Yeah. And I say, I mean, it was a light commitment. I was devoted to lots of other things too.
I see.
But yes, that's when I was like, I want to make this dream happen. Like, I've decided that this would be like the thing for me to do, you know?
Cool. So then what was the end of college like? You know, because for me, it was like work. I was just working my ass off harder than I'd ever worked myself consciously so I could graduate.
Yep.
But then once I graduated, I was just like, because no one in my family had graduated college before. No one in my family had I won't go there, but I had no idea what to do. And I just remember it was like I was inside of this vortex of achievement for 4 years. And then I get, my piece of paper and I walk across the stage. And the thing about my college experience that was so weird is it's a story for another time. But because of my own irresponsibleness, I only got one college that I had a chance to go to, and it was a private Southern Baptist university.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't make friends with anyone while I was in college. Like 4 years, like I had friends where I lived, but I would drive every day like 20 minutes to get to college. And then for 4 years, it was like, there would always be one or two women per year who would be interested and just like, why are you so fucking angry and atheist? They'd like stay around, but it never turn into anything significant. But so like when I crossed the stage, I didn't have like a group to like meet. I just kind of went back to my house and I was like, what? And I ended up at Chipotle working minimum wage in a couple of weeks. But what was that moment for you like?
Yeah, I was in a relationship. So that was like, I feel like I had like something to ground me. And I also had, all my friends were getting like jobs. And so I definitely did not know what I wanted to do when I graduated, but I had already been working at like a concert production company, as like a stagehand and a runner.
That's cool.
Yeah. So when I graduated, it was summer and that's like the concert season. So I got a job doing that, which was like contracted. It was like pay per day. And then I was doing that. And then I was working for my uncle who was like a property manager. And I was just doing like landscaping and like fixing up houses and helping him, which felt cool. But like I also just still didn't know what I wanted to do. And like I kind of felt shame for not getting a real job like everybody else was.
What were the other jobs people were getting?
They were getting jobs that I didn't want to have. They were getting jobs at like banks and like, like a lot of like finance stuff. And I mean, I don't even know, but everyone seemed to be getting some sort of job. And I felt like I was doing something wrong by not doing that. Especially when that summer ended, because then the concert season stopped. And then I was like, okay, now I need to figure something out. But yeah, I was in a relationship during that time and I had a great group of friends in Denver. So I felt like I had like community and something to like anchor me.
What'd you do once the summer ended and the concert thing changed?
I just did more of the landscaping and fixing up and just didn't have a lot of money. And I was like, I need to figure this out.
So is there anything worth mentioning from that moment to you as a roofer and you finding my content and started, like, how long of the time between those two things like expired, and did anything worth sharing in the myth of Graham happen?
No, I feel like that's kind of how it was for those next like 2 or 3 years in Denver.
Wow.
'Cause yeah, then I was in Montana. That's when I connected with you, and that's when I got the job roofing. So yeah, the 2-3 years after college were just kind of like hazy, still kind of partying, but less, and like slowly removing myself from that. And I think kind of anchoring more into like my spiritual practice.
Yeah, so I think it'd be super juicy to get into, like, if you had to look into those like 2 to 3 years of like the haziness, but then also the kind of like alchemical beginnings of like a distillation process. Would you say in hindsight that there was like a depression episode in that time? What were, if there was like a rock bottom moment, what was it? And then if there was something that like brought you out of it where it got you to like move, just like all of those are prompts to go deeper. Because
Yeah.
that window for a lot of people can be the window that leads to like 20 years of pain.
Yeah.
As opposed to like some type of like hard left turn.
Yeah, I think there was definitely like depression during that time. And but also like I felt like that was good because I'm trying to think of like a rock bottom moment. I think that there was definitely moments where I just felt so distant from like who I was showing up as, or like that I was like still partying, and then I would just like feel like shit, and I felt like I was like falling behind. I was like 23, but I felt like I had like wasted my life somehow. That pressure was like building up as time was moving on. And then I think the thing that honestly pulled me out was my parents bought a house in Montana, and I was just going to go out there for a little bit and like kind of start helping them fix the place up. And I was just like, I need to get out of Denver. So that this is like a little escape route. And
what was the point where you felt like you needed to get out of Denver? Because it feels like that's a major, like, in hindsight, it was a very significant choice you made.
Yeah. So my ex had moved back she had gone to Costa Rica to do like yoga. So they didn't have that like safety anchor anymore in Denver. And it was winter. So that summer concert series had ended. And I knew I didn't want to do that anymore, even though like I was really good at it, and like they liked me and they kept on paying me more money. But I just like knew that I knew that summer that I was like, this is the last time that I'm going to do this. And so I think the combination of those things, and now I just had like an out, it felt like I had an out where I could like go and like figure it out in Montana for a little bit. And so I did that. And then that's like when COVID started to happen. It just started to get weird. And so I realized I was going to just be staying in Montana. So one day I just went to like this like fair down in town and just walked around and started to like go. It was all like contractors and like people trying to get customers for roofing and siding and windows. And I saw this guy that seemed pretty cool, and I was like, hey, if you need help, I'm looking for some work. He was like, awesome. Have you ever done roofing? I was like, absolutely not. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, like, I'll let you know. The vibe I got from him was like, no, like we need people who know how to do this. And then like a week or two later, he called me and was like, hey, can you meet me? I like met him at like a dive bar, and he like went over. He was like, hey, I'll just like teach you and we'll figure it out. You seem like you've got like your head on your shoulders. I think a lot of the people that worked with him just didn't. So he was like, this guy can probably figure it out. And so, yeah, for the next like 4 months, I learned how to roof, doing roofing jobs. And that's like that during that period is when I did your journaling course and your small group course, and like connected with you, connected with Hallie. And that was like the, chapter 1 of the next phase of my life.
So for people who are just listening and not watching, you said that that was the time that you started to connect. Were you indicating with your fingers that like the drive to and from was the place where you like started to hear about us and stuff?
I had known your work. Like I had listened to you on even back when I was in Denver. So that was probably a big catalyst too. But actually, yeah, I didn't even connect that I was doing that, but I was listening to podcasts while I was roofing. On my drive, and actually like up on the roof, I was listening to podcasts, and I think that was like that was big.
I see. Because from my perspective, I had been working out on it for a while. I somehow got pushed into being a coach for Fit for Service when I didn't feel qualified to be coaching anyone on anything. And when COVID started, I technically lost my job at On It because I was now going to be like full-time for Aubrey and Fit for Service. And something like sparked in me of like inspiration / anxiety because like COVID and feeling like I lost my job, quote unquote. And so I kind of got possessed by something, and I was like waking up every day at 4 a.m. and just writing for like 4 to 6 hours. And I eventually made the journaling course, Make Your Myth.
Yeah.
And I think I was trying to prove to myself that I could survive as an entrepreneur without having to have a job. And so then without any permission from anyone or even any examples from other people, I was just like, I'm going to make a class where I basically just talk to people about the course.
Yeah.
And I think I charged $1,000 for it.
Yeah. And I had just gotten my stimulus check. You know what I'm saying?
It was the right time. And there was only like 15 people in the class or something.
Yeah.
And you were one of them. And like one of the things that I had the class do, I think on like week 2 or week 3, was to write a poem.
Mm-hmm.
Had you broken your arm yet?
No, I never broke my arm, but I remember the first day before the first class, I cracked a rib.
Cracked a rib, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And it ended up not being that bad, but it was just funny because I knew that was like going to be one of my last roofing jobs. And when I showed up to that house, I was like, this is the final boss.
Yeah.
This is Bowser.
So from my standpoint, the fact that you had a cracked rib the day before, like as a dude who really likes Carl Jung, like as a teacher, that was like, that made you stand out. I really hope no one listening to this then tries to hurt themselves coming into a class to try, like, please don't. But like my Jungian intuition was like, there's a here, I don't know what it is. But then when you shared your poem in the class on like week 3, I was just like, who the fuck is this dude? Because I judge books by their cover because I've looked at a lot of books. And when I saw you, it was just like, this is a bro, you know? But then the poem, and then it just happened to work out that one of my roommates at that time, like, I think he had just met a girl or something, and he was just like, hey guys, I'm moving out. And me and the other roommate were like, yo, what the fuck? We need you to help pay this.
Yeah.
And I think Hallie put in a good word for you, actually, now that I think about it.
Well, I had actually met you in person at that point because I had come out to visit, and Hallie had you on her podcast, I think.
Well, so did that happen during the class? Because I remember asking you if you wanted to move in while the class was still happening.
No, I think it was a little bit after.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I came out to Austin, I think when the class was done, and I met you in person. And then I was like, you asked if I wanted to help you with your podcast. And I was like, for sure.
I see.
My dreams are coming true.
Yeah.
Because, that first trip to Austin was the thing that, like, I knew I had quit the roofing job because I was like, I was like, this is plan A, no plan B. Like, I'm done with this. I'm going to go to Austin. And by the time I leave Austin, I'm just going to have something figured out. And it worked out that by the time I left Austin, I had like 4 podcast clients.
Wow.
And I didn't really even know how to edit podcasts at the time. And then you knew I wanted to move to Austin. And it was like a few weeks later or a couple months later, you sent me a voice note and you were like, my roommate's moving out. You're basically just like, you're moving in.
All right. So I'm going to pass the mic back to you. What was this whole next story like to you? Like, you get the voice note from me. What's your story?
Yeah. So I got the voice note for you. I had actually, so I knew that I wanted to move to Austin at the time, and I just hadn't figured out a place. But I had gone back to Naperville because my brother was there. It was still like weird COVID. This is like summer of 2020. So this is like peak.
Weird.
Yeah, peak weird. Especially Montana wasn't weird because it's just Montana, but Chicago was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my brother was living in the city and he was back in the house, so I went and was with him. And I think when you sent me that note, I still had another like month before it was time for me to move in. But I was just like, I was very stoked, and I was like then starting to work on your podcast. And just kind of like slowly turning that into a business, and being like, wow, I'm creating a business out of this thing. This is cool. Like, I'm making money for myself for the first time, where it felt like the more effort I put into this, the more I'm getting out of it. And like, this is something that I love to do. And so, yeah, I mean, the Austin chapter is still happening, and it's been fucking wonderful.
What was your relationship to music at this time?
I had put out a couple songs at this time, and I think when I got to Austin, I almost like put that on hold because I was just like, this is a new exciting thing that was happening, and like there was so much to do and so many new friends. But I definitely still made a little bedroom studio in the small bedroom at the Maxwell house.
I remember.
You know, I was like, bed, studio.
All right, so there's a couple of things I want you to get a chance to talk about. The 3 things are what you're currently doing with music.
Yep.
What this fundamental frequency thing is that you're up to. And then what you're doing with the Dharma Artist Collective. Just like, you know, because, and so I'll let you pick of those, and you can take it in whatever order you want.
Cool. So music, I'm very excited. Like I'm going to Montana next week, and it feels like a little like writer's retreat. And I'm very excited I've been getting into like more like sound therapy stuff and like Eileen McCusick's work. And I don't really know what it looks like, but there's like a there for sure.
I understand.
And a lot of like field recordings will be recorded, and a lot of sounds will be recorded. But yeah, I mean, making music is like my daily practice and like my meditation. Like when you open up your journal or your laptop, I just open up Logic.
Well, that's cool.
And it's like it's like a meditation daily practice.
Is there an EP on the horizon that we can look forward to that you want to claim on air? Or?
Yeah, just keep your ears open. There's something coming. There's something coming. I love that you just decided that my commitment for the Dharmathon was an EP.
You obviously are blacking out. You claimed it to me multiple times.
I don't remember that, but
it was more than
beautiful.
once.
I love that you claimed it. And then the fundamental frequency is the offer that I've built in your Dave, of course, which has been fucking awesome, dude. Oh, I'm so stoked that you're doing that. And I'm still like figuring out what that is. But yeah, I've just had this feeling like, I feel like there's so many people in the Austin spiritual space that are super like always trying to like optimize and like remove all the toxins, and the 5G towers are destroying us. And just from some things I've been reading and the way that I've intuitively been feeling is like, I think that we have more sovereignty in like our ability to like tune ourselves and like create a frequency that's able to like buffer that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And just like find our true like vibration and like the way that we express in the world. I think a lot of people, they like let their environment dictate the way that they show up. And then there's people who like, they walk into a room and it's like their frequency.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's something good, but like people feel good when they walk into a room and it's like they are kind of controlling is not the right word, but like they're influencing their environment.
They get tuned to.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a couple of things here that I think will be really interesting to you because this is something that you're currently giving your attention to. Is the first one is like one of the things that I think would be fun for you to look into through this lens of like fundamental frequency, because I really loved how you set the case of like there is a spiritual veneer way of being where we basically get praised for like a fight or flight driven OCD-esque anxiety.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and God bless the people close to me who fit this to a T.
Yeah.
Where the amount of dysregulation that will happen if the food is not, but that what you're speaking to is like, there's a whole class of phenomena that we call the placebo effect.
Yes.
Where people, depending on their perception and then how it impinges upon their nervous state frequency, and if that makes some people think that that's woo-woo, all three of those words I just said are scientifically used words, and just if you can just relax into the fact that you give off an electromagnetic frequency field that can be measured. That is not woo-woo.
Yeah.
But there are people who their belief is so strong that they're able to overcome like toxins in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the opposite is true too.
Yeah.
That people can be given a sugar pill, but if they're told it's a certain thing and they have a certain relationship to it, that they can make themselves ill.
Yep.
And it's been observed in hundreds of studies. And so I think that that's a testament to this, like, we can emanate this frequency. The other thing that's interesting is I just saw a study recently that showed that if there's a group of people who are in a room together, whoever has the most resilient nervous system, and the way that that's quantified is the one that is the hardest to bring into fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that has the most resiliency, and it's not even so much that you don't go into fight or flight, but that you come back to a parasympathetic
100%.
baseline quickly.
That's huge. Yeah.
That the other nervous systems in the room will unconsciously begin to attune and be anchored by the calm one.
Yes.
And so it really is kind of, it goes against our intuitions of control, because it's not a control thing. It's more like there's just a stronger hum that comes into a space, and the discordant hums will attune to it. And the thing that's really interesting is like a piece of folk wisdom is that like women attune to the alpha woman and they sync their cycles to her. I think an interesting quantification that could be a potential experiment is like, one, is there anything there actually? And if there is, it might be the nervous system resiliency, like the one that has that's least likely to go into a fight or flight. But then even if they do go into a fight or flight, they come back down easily into a parasympathetic response. Because again, I think something that is worth knowing that's a common misunderstanding is that like working with your nervous system and like getting good with it or making it stronger is not equivalent to never being stressed. Like to not be stressed is actually very likely some type of disassociation response to your environment.
Right.
But that the resiliency is the capacity to get into the extreme state and then to come back to baseline quickly.
Yeah.
And it's just like having good cardiovascular resiliency is that you can fucking go hard and then you come back down.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love what you said. It's like tune or be tuned, you know? That's good.
Nice.
That's really good. Yeah, and like I just think that I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think that the power of like sound and sound therapy is just at the very beginning. And I think that there's going to be,
That's cool.
there is a lot of cool research happening right now of like, how can we actually, I mean, everything is frequency and sound is audible frequency. And how can we use that to tune ourselves? And then we tune. And then we tune.
Tune in.
There we go.
All right. Well, we are at time. That went by really fast.
Yeah, we'll have to do another podcast about Dharma Artist Collective.
Yeah, and I think maybe quicker than once every 8 years.
Yeah, maybe. We'll think about it.
So if you could have everyone listening go tune in to a song as soon as they're done with this podcast, what is the song you would recommend people go check out? And if you want, you can recommend an entire album.
Holy shit. First, The Sound of Rain. Just go listen to The Sound of Rain. That's number one.
Like actually go outside and wait?
Or even just like go find The Sound of Rain online.
I see.
That's my favorite song.
Wow. That's cool. I didn't know that.
And then, oh my God, dude, a single album.
What was the most recent album you listened to start to finish?
Okay, this morning while we were on the sprint, I was listening to Bloom by Beach House.
Nice.
It's fucking so good.
From start to finish?
It's like the most nostalgic album. I didn't get all the way through it, but I got through the first like 6 or 7 songs.
Cool.
And every song is just like, I was just like in the lobby of the Toyota building while my car was getting serviced. And I was just like, it's so good.
Beautiful.
Peak nostalgia.
Graham, thank you for coming on The Myths That Make Us. Thank you for making The Myths That Make Us possible. Without you, almost anything that I'm doing, I wouldn't be doing. So I just want to say thank you for being an incredible human, and I'm looking forward to your ridiculous success.
I love you so much, brother. Thank you for having me on.